Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Join hosts Dan Melnick and Qasim Masood as they explore big ideas, limitless possibilities, and engage with visionaries, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who dare to dream big, get inspired, motivated, and find practical tips for personal growth. Think big, dream bigger, and ignite your potential.
Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. We have Effie filling in for Qasim today, and our guest today is Ugochi. So if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us what you do and where you live.
Hi, I'm Ugochi. I am the CEO and founder of Flindel, which is a reverse logistics company headquartered out of Austin, which is where I'm currently at.
So how did you go about starting your company? How did you get this idea?
I had the idea a couple of years ago when I had just had a really negative experience with the entire shopping process. I used to live in Toronto, Canada. And what a lot of people don't realize is that if you think that returns are complicated here domestically, it's very complicated internationally and overseas. And a huge thing with the e-commerce world is that e-commerce enabled for anyone to be able to have customers everywhere. So you can be in Australia and have customers all around the world. But the negative part is just that you're still based in Australia. So every return needs to be made back to Australia. And for us, I mean, it seemed like a really straightforward problem to solve. And for me, just like as a person, I'm the kind of person that if I am, working on a puzzle and there's a piece that's missing, I'll go back to the store, get the same package, and then find that one missing piece to be able to solve it. So that's really what we're trying to do with Flindel is in-home returns.
Awesome. So what was your biggest challenge when starting this company?
I think learning about just breaking boundaries and breaking barriers in the logistics space. So most of the companies that are in the space have been in the space for literally hundreds of years. So like FedEx, UPS, etc. And then they approach logistics from a very traditional viewpoint, which is, there's a giant warehouse where everything is centralized and everything comes in and out of those locations, which worked for traditional parcel shipments. So like back in the day when people would ship like larger items, like couches or whatever, that would take significant time to ship. That model made significant sense because that model was designed for a physical world, which is like B2B, selling items to merchants versus now a digital world, which is like more items leaving a warehouse directly to the consumer's house. So like pre-existing infrastructure is not set up for the consumers whatsoever. So for us, when we first got into the space, I was looking at what currently existed and trying to figure out how do we even how do we even do this? And our initial approach was to we'd have miniature warehouses in every city because we were like, oh, this is the way to be able to get things to people's homes significantly faster, by having the return be validated in city without having it need to be shipped and removed from that location to, the warehouse of the merchant. And that model proved to be very expensive before, which was the giant warehouses, and now kind of taking that and then adopting it to something a little bit more modern, which didn't make sense for us. And then what wound up happening was that I had lost a bidding war for a fairly large warehouse in Austin to a large company that shall not be named. And it enabled us to understand that the real power here is a software play. So Flindel currently, we are able to do consumers returns and home returns, but without physical warehouses.
Wow, that's really that's pretty crazy actually. That's a lot. I'm curious because obviously you're coming, as you mentioned, you're competing with these big giant corporations. What was and you mentioned you're trying to find a different way to operate business so you're not directly competing with their model, but what was if you had to name one thing, what was the hardest aspect in starting this business?
I think everything is fixable when you have the right people in your corner. So for us, something that I learned early on, because I didn't come from a logistics background. I came from a tech background, with comps and everything. So like I just early on, I recruited the right people to be able to help us to make this company make sense. So which was to be able to help us make this company make sense so that when hurdles did come and different challenges did come, we'd be able to have like good counsel to get through that. So like for any company, building a great core team is very important. Our team is like just incredible humans across the board, but then also building a really strong advisory board is very important. So at Flindel's advisory board, we have everyone from like senior executives at like Uber, Meta, former MasterCard people, et cetera, and just people that are just able to help us, navigate through the tough times. Because as a business, you go through so many different things that are some of them within your control, which is, oh, like our model, may need a little bit of adjusting. And then some of them like that are out of control, like, oh, global pandemic shut down the entire world for 6 months. So, which is our version of, Marvel's blip. Yeah, like so in every of those scenarios, when you have the right people that are involved with you, you're able to think through it. Because sometimes for us, like when there's a problem that I'm like presently like faced with the glaring problem, I may not be able to see it right now because I can't remove myself from that issue. But then having other eyes and other perspective, to say, hey, Goshi, like this isn't actually that complicated. Is definitely helpful. So every issue that we've had has been resolved by having the right people around us.
I guess my follow-up question, I guess in some ways is a two-part follow-up question is
Sure.
one, how did you like find the right people? Because I mean, you mentioned some people from these big companies. How did you find them? And two, I guess since you're based in Austin and Austin is now like the big hit. I know Dan wants to move there. He's planning moving there in a few months from Dallas. But like, did living in Austin help you also find the right people for your team?
I think it's definitely an ongoing process. And I would say that you need to be very specific as to like what you actually want for your company and then for yourself, right? So your advisors are people that add some degree of value to both the company's life as well as your life. Like I've fully like had like very transparent conversations with my advisors where I'm just like, yeah, today sucked. Here's why, and then with your like you have to like know what you want. So for example, with us, there were some things that I knew that I didn't personally know that I needed to get certain people involved that did know those things that will be able to offer significant like feedback based off of their experience in the space. Getting people that are involved in the commerce space, getting people that are involved in logistics, like heavily, just like Uber or, like writing those things down. So for me, I wrote down a list of all the companies that I admired and wrote down like the reasons why. Then I wrote down people that were, controlling these companies. And then I reached out to them. And, if you're a human to other people, like people are just looking for human connection. So if you're a human, you're not weird, you're not like greedy or anything. People are willing to have conversations with you and, like build a long-standing working relationship with you. So I would say like be specific about what you want and be specific about like your goals and your target. And then the right people will come to you based off of that.
Awesome. So, what would you say the role of technology has played in the success of your business?
Yeah, I know. I like we're the way that our system works is that customer wants to return an item, they're able to scan the item, and we're able to recognize, using our systems, like knowing if the item is in good condition or poor condition. So we effectively bring the entire QA process that happens in a warehouse to the consumer's phone, which is something that's never been done before in the industry. So like, technology is great. These smartphones, the cameras are just like so different than they were 10, 15, 20 years ago. If it was back then, it wouldn't have been a great time to start Flindel in the way that we have. So technology is centrifugal to everything that we do. And with the advancement of AI detection technologies and like neural networks and everything, we're able to train our models a little bit better to figure out like, okay, what exact condition is this in? Is it cracked? Does it have a hairline fracture? What kind of crack is it? Does it have a stain? Does the shirt have a stain? Which, you may not typically be able to recognize until like the system is smart. So yeah, technology plays a giant role in the progression of the company.
So in terms of training these models, like what did that process look like for you?
Just a ton of images of things like broken iPhone, broken iPhone, broken iPhone, broken iPhone, red shirt, red shirt, red shirt, red shirt, different shades of red shirt. This is what the red shirts from Walmart look like. This is what it looks like if it's torn, because with the return process, unfortunately, there comes a lot of fraud that happens where people will, like, someone can, like, imagine someone buying a black Prada shirt, right? And going to Walmart and then buying a black George shirt and then swapping the two. So you have to be able to train to recognize, what is what. So for us, like, we're constantly learning, constantly, accepting feedback, and just super excited about the space and excited for the next few years.
So how does it read? I mean, that's like an interesting point. So it's like, how does it read if it's like a different brand per se?
No, the person has to take a picture of the tag.
Oh, okay, so the
I
tag
wish
is
I could
required.
say it counts the thread fabric and says this is not it, but no, the person has to take a picture of the label, including their receipt.
But can it tell if it's like a fake, like a knockoff shirt or knockoff?
No, we're actually looking to partner with a company that's based out in Houston that's focused on anti-counterfeit technology specifically for this. So what they do is that they do anti-counterfeit recognition on the blockchain. So giving everyone like a certificate of authentication, because a lot of these luxury brands actually don't have a means of, like, you never know. Like, someone has like a fake Louis Vuitton bag and you think it's real, and then for us, like, it's definitely important to be able to just understand, the difference between, or a trainer systems to understand the difference between a knockoff, versus the authentic thing.
So besides telling if something is real or fake, what have been your other, I guess, challenges in terms of making sure that all the technology is working seamlessly?
I think it was really just pivoting from like manual to automated. So there was a point where we had actual human beings that were picking up returns, and we called them Flindies, and they were people that wore like red shirts, and because our logo was red at the time, and we would have them just like be on the street corners. I'm not even kidding, and people could like drop an item to that person, and the person would like then take it to at the time an apartment that we were renting out, and then sort through the item and all of that. Pivoting from that, from human interaction to minimal human interaction, was like a really huge thing for us. And there was a lot of, hiccups that came along the way, but then for us, like, the technology enabled for us to largely be hands off. So it means that there's no more interacting with the customer service person in store or online to figure out, like, oh, I don't want to return, I want to return this because XYZ, the awkward conversation that always happens, or being able to do things or planning your day or your life around a return. Everything just happens like from the palm of your hand. So I think, like, for us, the technology aspect, like I said earlier, it's played a huge role. But it's also helped us to be able to solve a lot of like hiccups and challenges that come with doing things manually as opposed to automated.
So what has been the biggest way that you've been able to get the word out about your business?
Definitely just through strategic partnerships. So typically, like, you'll reach out, like, we're a B2B company. So we'll reach out to, Shopify, BigCommerce, etc., and then just like reach out to the merchants within their Advanced Plus and other pools. So that's something that's like super, super important to us. And then, of course, like, going to retail events, like, I would definitely say for entrepreneurs that are looking to get the word out about their company, depending on whether or not they're B2B, so serving businesses directly, or their B2C product, is coming to conferences, doing speaking roles and all of that, like doing strategic partnerships. Everyone in the space, like, no one's really against you. I mean, yeah, there can be competition, but everyone's really rooting for you to win, because at the end of the day, you're solving a problem and people like their problems to be solved.
That's very true. That's very true. So besides partnering with that Houston company to fix the counterfeit issue, what would you say is your like top priority for the next 3 to 6 months? And also maybe a year.
Our top priority is we're looking at a couple of international moves right now. So very excited about that, and just looking into just different things overseas, because the issues domestically are for the most part very, very, very straightforward. But then overseas, with terms of logistics networks, it's a little bit more complex. So like the experience of somebody in a country like Nigeria, for example, versus in a country like the States or Canada, very, very, very different experience. So we're in conversation with a couple of companies around that. I'm very, very, very excited for what's ahead.
Really cool, really exciting. Where do you envision your company 1 year from now? If we have this chat again 1 year from today, what do you think Flindel's going to look like at that point?
I know that a year from today, we'll have some exciting news that we, are closing in a little bit that we'll be able to share. And I'm very excited to have this conversation a year from today and, talk about this conversation and how exciting that news was.
Awesome. So what is the
growth?
yeah, for sure. So what is the one biggest piece of advice that you wish that you knew before you started this company?
I would say that it's okay to not have everything figured out from the beginning. And because the thing is that like building a company is not a straightforward thing. It's a sinusoidal wave. You have your super high highs and then your super low lows. And that's okay, and that's very, very normal. And I think because I'd surrounded myself with people that had built like these like $100 billion plus companies, and I was just like, oh my goodness, we need to be scaling at this rate and doing all of these things at this specific rate. It put a lot of like internal pressure. So what I would tell myself, like a younger me, is like, hey, you're gonna figure it out. It's okay to like not exactly have all the answers right now, but eventually you will. And just to enjoy the moments. Like I'd be doing really, really cool things, but I just didn't have the ability at the time to take time and just like really appreciate, like, oh wow, this is really happening for me. Like there's literally someone I used to write essays on in college that I like, it's like my most recent on FaceTime. So like those are things, are just things that like 18-year-old me would have been geeking out over, that I, in the moment of just being so like heads down, didn't take time to appreciate. So I would just definitely say like appreciate like in the grind, in that process, but like appreciate the journey, and appreciate and celebrate like the little wins. Like whether it's like, oh my goodness, somebody replies to my email, or oh my goodness, I had this amazing meeting, or getting your first check from an investor. Like that's a big deal. I remember like I was like in such back to backs that wire was sent, it happened, and I'm like, okay. And then we just kept going, So I would definitely say that just like for all of the entrepreneurs, like enjoy the little things. Take yourself to get coffee and like enjoy the taste of the coffee. Like I don't remember like so many things that happened because I wasn't like, mentally present in those moments.
So I was just curious, you said that you've been around a lot of very successful people. Just what have you noticed, I guess, specific, top qualities that differentiate those people from people who have not been successful?
What I would say is everybody is a normal human being. And people generally will like have just a perception that people just do something like drastically special. Everyone's normal. Everyone like, puts their pants on one leg at a time, all of that. But I think a huge thing is persistence, like diligence. A lot of companies and a lot of visions end up dying prematurely, not necessarily because the circumstance or because the idea is negative, but just simply because of the fact that you may be really, 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 really close to your breakthrough, and then you just like, I don't want to do this anymore. It's too hard, whatever. I'm going to like go back to my normal job or whatever. But if you're genuinely convicted about something, you will find a way to be able to make it work. And then you'll continue to surround yourself with people that can continue to elevate you. So what I would say is just surround yourself with the right people. So meaning that like, again, in the multitude of counsel and wisdom, like there's safety. Like if you're, freaking out, there's someone that may know someone that may be able to like help you get to the next step. And then, be consistent, like don't give up. Those are the two things that you need, and then everything will be okay. Yeah, and the intelligence part, I mean, not everyone at the top is the smartest person. So what I would say is just like, as long as you have those two things will work out for you in your favor.
Awesome. Well, that's really good advice. If somebody wanted to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to reach out or find your company?
I would definitely say if you wanted to reach out to me personally, probably on Twitter. I don't tweet, but I am on there a lot. So if someone was to DM me, I respond to DMs. And then company-wise, like profiles are on Twitter and all of that, or they can shoot an email to support@flindel.com.
Awesome. Well, Ugochi, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate the inspiration and very, very inspiring words. So thank you.
Thank you so much. This has been great.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks. Have a good rest of your day.
Yes, you too. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.